Today is Monday, September 21st, 2015. My name is Juliana Nykolaiszyn with the Oklahoma State University Library. I'm in Shawnee, Oklahoma, Pottawattamie County today, interviewing Mr. Jim Lowe as part of our Cowboys in Every County Oral History Project. Mr. Lowe, thank you for joining me today.
Well, you're more than welcome.
I'd like to start and learn a little bit more about you. Could you tell me the year you were born and where you were born?
I was born in Oklahoma City at the Old Mercy Hospital in 1936 on December 22nd.
And tell me a little bit about your parents.
My dad was working at that time for the Oklahoma City Health Department. Mom had been in school in Alva, and that's where Dad met her. Dad graduated from OSU in 1927. He was on the National Livestock Judging Team in Chicago, which I found out from one of the OSU magazines that came through years later. He had a brother and a sister that also graduated from OSU. In fact, Fred Lowe has a building in the animal husbandry department named after him. So I had some orange blood in my background, but most of it came later because Dad never pushed me, even though he'd sit and listen to football and basketball games on the radio, and I'd sit in the living room and listen with him. I guess I was a normal kid because it was a great time of life to grow up where you didn't lock doors or worry about things. Attended Nykolaiszyn High School and graduated in 1955. Considered going to OU because I was very interested in architecture, and after visiting down there, I kind of lost my interest. But I knew that OSU had or A&M had a architecture school, and several of my good friends were going up there, and so that was an easy choice to make. We got up there in the fall of 1955, and went through Rush, and they moved us all into Cordell Hall for a week, and it was in a little better shape then than it is now, which I think it's on the demolition list, I believe. Mm-hmm. It was quite a structure at that time. Anyway, several of us played Cap Sig, and we're still in touch, and some of us get together once a month and have lunch, and a lot of fond memories. A lot of wild stories are still told.
Well, let's back up just a little bit.
Okay.
And talk a little bit more about growing up in Oklahoma City. Did you have siblings?
No, I'm spoiled rotten. But I had a lot of good friends, and we'd ride our bicycles everywhere. It was a good life. We could ride our bikes up to the Villa Theater on 23rd Street for 10 cents, go in at 10 in the morning and watch all kinds of cartoons and films and serials and a movie, and get out about 4 in the afternoon. And you'd go in, and it was a nice sunny day, and you'd come out, it was snowing or raining, but you had a mile to ride on your bicycle. And Boy Scout troop met at our Penn Avenue Methodist Church. And probably the greatest thing we did was when we got a new troop leader who had captained a PT boat in World War II. And we just would sit around. He was also our Sunday school teacher, and he could tell the greatest stories, and we'd just be enthralled, because we were all still young when the war was over, but we certainly remembered it, and you couldn't go to a movie without seeing a newsreel about the war and all the efforts and everything that was going on. And our neighbor that was hoarding tires, I'm starting to remember some things I'd forgotten. But went on to, Hawthorne Grade School, old Hawthorne Gorillas, played a lot of baseball, and Taft Junior High, played some more baseball. Then started working and throwing papers. One of the things about throwing papers in those days, you had a morning route and you had an evening route. And ride our bicycles to them, pick up our papers at 4:30 in the morning, and we'd have to go around and collect from people some are on a weekly basis and some on a monthly basis. So every Saturday we'd usually have our collections in our paper bag, and some guy pulled me over one morning and accused me of breaking into his car, and I said, "No, I haven't." And he said, let me see in your bag. The next thing I knew, my bag was empty and he was gone. Dad bailed me out, thank goodness. But a church all the way across on the other side of Oklahoma City saw it in the paper, and they sent some money to the paper station for me. And I thought, well, you know, people I didn't even know. And I thought, this is going to be a good life.
How much would you make throwing papers?
Maybe $35 a month, something like that. But all the papers I could read.
Mm-hmm.
And then Dad would start letting me drive when I was 14. Of course, I'd been driving on my uncle's farm, but this was a little different. But 4:30 in the morning, it wasn't much of a problem, so, particularly after I got robbed. But a lot of fun. In fact, one of the guys that was in our fraternity and had lunch with once a month was the station manager. So we'd go duck hunting after we got through throwing papers in the mornings, and sometimes go fishing, and get out on the Canadian riverbed and go through where the dry holes were, find the fish that were trapped in there. And the worst part about the duck hunting was cleaning the ducks. Of course, I guess that didn't really suit me because I remember Mother wringing chickens' necks in the backyard. And here we were right in the middle of Oklahoma City. It was a good life, a good time to grow up.
Would you ride the streetcars?
Oh yes, it ran right by our house. And to go take my guitar lessons, would have to ride the streetcar downtown and then catch another one that would go up to where the teacher's house was. And I don't know why Mom was going with me when it first started, but I would be carrying the guitar for a while, and then she'd carry it for a while. And she stubbed her toe on one of the little turtles that they used to make turn lanes or safety lanes and steel things on the ground, on the pavement. Stubbed her toe and fell and scraped her knees and dropped my guitar and all that. But the biggest thing about the streetcars was the night they quit running. Because they'd come by the house about once an hour. And you just wouldn't pay attention. And the night they quit running, I'd wake up every hour. Because it had been part of my life. And I don't know, they're going back to it, but they have big rubber tires on them, I guess. But they were allowed. Great memories. Thank you for bringing some of those up.
Was education very important in your family?
Well, Dad and Mom both had degrees. Mm-hmm. Dad's was from A&M, and hers was from, Garber. And in fact, that's where Dad met Mom, because he was teaching VOAG or something up there at Garber, and that's where he met Mom, because she was still in school there. So I would say yes, they made sure I had decent grades, and it wasn't difficult. I guess I made all the honor rolls, I don't remember.
Would they take you to visit A&M as you were growing up?
Not at that age, mm-hmm. No. But like I say, Dad was always listening to the ball games, and I'd sit in there and listen with him. So I don't remember going to Stillwater at that age. After I decided to go up there, Dad drove me up there, and I guess he went with me when I enrolled, and then to get books. And he had been in school with a guy named Swim that had Swim's Drug. It's over on the corner of, well, it'd be Cata Corner from where Eskimo Joe's is now. Mm-hmm. And he had a pool hall upstairs, and he and Dad were friends. And so Dad took me by there, and I sat there and listened to them talk for, seemed like hours, but I guess it wasn't that long. And I think he had I think we bought some of their books there at that time. So that's the first time I remember being up there with Dad. He came up, he and Mom both came up after us in school, and come up occasionally for football games or pick me up so we could go hunting. But yes, I think education was very important in their minds. Mm-hmm. And they made sure I got up every morning and went.
Was there anything that sparked your interest in architecture growing up?
Well, I'd taken mechanical drawing classes, which I enjoyed, and I guess I'd always been sketching little things. Either I've still got some of the things around Dad's little profile or something. I remember doing some type of gold mining operation in Alaska that I'd copied off of something. So yeah, I guess I really did have more than I realized. And then I had a good friend in high school that was very serious about architecture and has been quite successful at it in Houston. But yeah, I was always enjoyed looking at things, and some photography classes probably added to that. I didn't think I could be any good at it because I wasn't real good at math. I guess they don't even use it anymore. Everything's on computers. But yeah, I was interested in. I didn't like calculus, and I decided I better look at something else. And that was an easy decision. It's just, I'm glad it worked out.
So when you first came to OSU as a student, how did you get there your freshman year? How did you get from Oklahoma City to Stillwater?
Okay. Dad had bought 55 Ford Fairlane, and I had to pick up 2 other guys with it. And that's how we got it. Because he had a city car, so there was no problem to loan me the car for a while. And there were several guys that just depended on me to get them there and get them home.
You were a popular guy with a set of wheels.
It got that way. I don't remember if they ever bought me any gas or not. Of course, gas was 9 cents, wasn't much. But, and there weren't a lot of cars on campus either.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine trying to find a parking place today up there. It's bad enough at a football game or basketball game. And then eventually Dad helped me, because I joined the Army Reserves in high school, so I had some income from that too. And that saved my paper money. Bought a 52 Chevrolet. It served the same purpose as the Ford Fairlane did, only it was older and smaller. And had it all the way through school.
Well, you rushed Kappa Sig early on.
Mm-hmm.
How did you choose Kappa Sig, or did they choose you?
Well, I guess it's a matter of both. The guy I threw papers with was a Kappa Sig. And I remember going over to their house. Of course, it was impressive because they had a brand new house. It was 1955, and they were just moving into it. And I remembered when I was at Philmont Scout Ranch, I guess when I was a freshman in high school, one of the counselors or camp leaders or whatever he was, this big old hairy guy named J. Roy Embody. And I remembered him for the next 4 years because I was so impressed with the guy, and he was so helpful in guiding us and helping us poke the mules up the mountain and all that stuff. And we're sitting out there on the front porch of the Kappa Sigma house, and I don't know who I was talking with, and they said something about Boy Scouts, and I said, yeah, Philmont was one of the greatest memories I have, and I still remember a guy out there named J. Roy Embody. He said, he's right over there inside the door. Of course, he didn't remember me from Adam, but that added to it. That just made me feel real comfortable there. And as it turned out, even though we didn't know it, 3 of us that all had been buddies all the way through high school, all the way back to grade school, ended up there at the same time. We're still in touch. It worked out real well. Of course, that was A&M.
And you didn't live right away in the Kappa Sig house. Yeah. You lived in Cordell.
Well, that was just for Rush.
Okay.
So as soon as Rush, we had Bid House in Cordell, I believe it was, where we go down and pick up who might be interested in us.
Okay.
And then marched over to the Cap Steakhouse and brought our stuff and moved right in. And pledging was a little different in those days too.
How so?
Well, you had to keep your room clean, your beds made, you had to clean the house every Saturday night, you had to keep the phones answered, learn some decent, excellent table manners. That was a very big thing with the house mothers, who really would, you'd always dread when you were assigned to sit at her table. But today I appreciate it, because I felt like I could sit down at a presidential dinner and not make a faux pas on which fork to use or what. But, learned a lot. Of course, kids today have so much more in their world than we did at that time. And of course, television made a world of difference. So, yeah, we did have TV, but it wasn't what it is today. So that, I feel like it was just a great thing for me, because my life had been limited, but I didn't have a lot of worldly experience other than a little bit after I got in the Army Reserves. I think it's been a good guide for my life.
So your house mom was pretty tough.
Well, she was, I wouldn't say tough, but stern.
Do you remember her name?
Mother Bruce. We even got a wedding gift from her. After she retired, she moved with her daughter out to New Mexico. But she stayed in touch with a lot of us through the years. And, of course, everybody always be bad mouthing her because she made us play straight. And I guess one guy got in trouble because he came in a little intoxicated one night and went into her room and fell asleep on her couch. That didn't go over too big. But she was a sweet lady. Taught some great lessons, and I don't think the young guys are learning all that today. But, of course, I'm sure all old people say that.
Did you live in the house all 4 years?
I had an apartment 1 year.
Okay.
It's a little garage apartment, and we like to starve to death in it because there's just two of us. Well, of course, nothing was air conditioned, so that wasn't an issue. Probably the biggest shock of my life is when I came back. I had gone active in the Army and went to OCS and got a commission, and came back in 1957, and I no longer lived on College Avenue. It was University Avenue, and couldn't find the right address for a while. But so actually, I've been to two colleges and universities for my degree. I don't think that helps a bit.
When did you leave for OCS?
That would have been in 57. I was only gone 6 months.
Okay.
But anyway, I like that reserve money. It certainly helped out. And I thought I was going to be going to war a few times. It all worked out. So,
Let's talk about some of the classes and professors you remember.
I had one business class with a guy named Pedro Leongo. So his name's no more strange than yours, but he was brutal. I couldn't hardly understand him. And fortunately, he'd break us up into study groups, and then we'd have a case to go work out for some corporation that something was going wrong. So there'd be about 4 or 5 of us that would get together and work on it. And fortunately, one of the guys in my group, his last name was Batt, B-A-T-T. He was from in India. And he could understand the guy much better than the rest of us could. So that gave us a little bit of edge, but it was a fun class. In fact, Dave Cawthon, a friend of ours that's since passed away, was in that class. Dave was president of OCU for a while, and interim president, did quite well. So he got more out of that class than I did. Let's see. I remember econ class where one of the older guys in the fraternity was a student instructor. And walked in there one day, and he was in charge, instructor. I can't even remember who the guy was supposed to be. But anyway, Phil was there to take the class that day, and he threw a pop quiz on us. And I had not a clue what it was about. So I just wrote on my paper, if you turned your paper in, at least you were credited for being there. And so I just wrote on my paper, punt. Got the paper back to the next class, said, field goal, 3 points. I enjoyed the econ class. There was a sociology class with a guy named May, Dr. May. He was from up north somewhere. And turned out that he was a Cap Sig wherever he came from. So I don't know if he showed us any favoritisms or not. But it was an interesting class. And I think that was the one we met over in Old Central. Mm-hmm. And I know it's been beefed up since then because it was so rickety and you just knew there were ghosts hanging around you and all that. I'm sure there's others if I could come up with them. But anyway, after my freshman year, I passed everything. Didn't have to get freshman year out of the way. Of course, that time I had to go to Roxy and go over there and check our rifles out of the armory. There was a swimming pool in the armory at that time. I didn't know we didn't get to use it.
You do a lot of drilling?
Yeah. But I'd already done it all in the reserve, so I was the squad captain or whatever it was, squad leader. And that helped because I'd already been through it all. Mostly down at Fort Hood one summer. That's another story I just soon forget. Classes. I guess I remember more about, I found the library my senior year and learned that you could study and be real quiet over there. But in the Union at that time, I think the French lounge, there was a French lounge and a Chinese lounge. And one of them was gone now, I'm not sure which one. But that was always a good place to go study, but it was always quiet.
And both buildings were relatively new.
Yes, the Union was extremely new, and I think even then it was supposedly the largest in the world. Of course, it's been added on to many times. The hotel was there with a good restaurant. It's hard to get in on Sundays because none of the houses had meals, so you had to go find someplace else to eat. There was a bowling alley in the basement. I remember going down there one time. It was with some of the football players. And I still had on a shirt and a tie, a pin collar tie that you put the pin through and the tie kind of hangs down over it. And I was trying to show what a proficient bowler I was to these football jocks. And I don't know how in the world I did it, but as soon as I released the ball and I turned my head, and that collar just blew up, exploded, and they were looking at me like, what in the world's that guy doing? And it was Dwayne Wood, and I can't remember who else. But, yeah, there was always something going on in the Union. Dances, there was a freshman dance, I remember. There was one dance. I had a date with a girl from Shawnee, and somehow we got locked out on the roof. because there was nothing on the roof at that time except air conditioners and equipment. And I guess we finally made enough noise. I don't think it was her. I think it was me making a lot of noise to somebody come up and open the door for us. Yeah, you went to high school with her. Huh. Beanies? We wore a beanie her first week as a freshman.
How'd that go for you?
Well, nobody's real proud of the beanies. But there was somebody had started the whole thing about Howdy Week. And do they still do Howdy Week? I don't know. But yeah, you had your beanie, and particularly the other beanie wearers, you'd always want to say howdy to. Yeah. But I don't think they lasted the whole week. What else? Let's go to another question.
Did you stay in architecture?
No.
So what did you end up changing your major to?
So after my first semester of architecture, I went to general business.
Okay.
And that's where I finally got my degree. But, and of course, I ended up in production management, which I think has helped to some of the things I've done during my lifetime. I think it made me be more efficient in ways I do things with fewer steps or movements, particularly now that I'm not able to take as many steps or whatever. But it worked out well.
Did you have a good advisor in business?
I was just trying to remember. I'm sure I did because I got through it. So I'd say yes, but I can't remember. And I know I didn't have a lot of contact with him. I know where his office was. Fortunately, I never got called to people's offices like I did in high school.
Did you attend many sporting events?
Went to the football, and some of the basketball, and some of the wrestling.
How was Lewis Field back then?
Well, it was a rust bucket. And some of the football players and basketball players had little apartments under the north stands. And that was a wild place. It was one of our guys, Matt Carter lived over there. And I think J.W. Mashburn lived over there. And some guys that I knew they ended up knowing later. I just love to hear their stories. And of course, Iva was the little small Iva. The had a little track underneath and a workout area for the wrestlers, and it was a dungeon. It was, I don't know why the guys put themselves through it to have to go down there. There was a baseball batting cage, and anything going on, it'd always stir up the dust, and you'd almost choke trying to get up out of there to get some air. Let's see. Well, there was the night that we beat Wilt Chamberlain and the Jayhawks. Of course, everybody was packed in Gallagher, but there was little windows right up at the top that would open. And of course, there's no way they could meet any type of safety restrictions. It must have been 100 degrees in there. That was one wild night. It went on all night. But, I guess the big wrestling night was after we graduated, when Dr. Mitch pinned Dr. Death for OU, and that tore the house down.
Would you have many walkouts back then?
No, not that I remember.
Okay.
I think we still had class after we beat KU and Wilt that time. You don't call panty raids walkouts?
No.
Okay. Yeah, we had those. Nobody ever knew what started them or why, but everybody showed up.
So with panty raids, I've heard varying stories about how they happen.
Well, I heard stories because I wouldn't be involved in any of that. Well,
So why don't explain how it works to me?
well, the way I remember it, there's a couple of guys, was it Stout or Murray Hall, somehow got in. Whether they were let in, I don't know. But that's what started it. And how it spread so fast, I have no idea. But everybody was out watching to see what was going on. And I don't know, I never saw anything. But everybody thought it was a big deal. And I'm sure some people have better stories on it than that.
You never ended up in the Dean of Men's office then?
No. Now, there was Dean Troxel that was over the fraternity council and all that, but that was usually to go drink beer or something with him. So that was, no, I was never. In fact, the only time I ever went to the principal's office in high school was I went all the way from grade school through high school with another guy named Jim Lowe. He was Jimmy Benjamin, and I was Jimmy Douglas. But everything else was just Jim Lowe. So the time I was called to the principal's office, it was for Jimmy Benjamin. So anyway, he went to OU, and I went to A&M. And I think that was my junior year. And I had sent some clothes to the cleaners, and they didn't come back. And I went down to the cleaners and asked about my clothes. And they said, well, it shows right here, we took them to the Lamakai house. I said, well, what? And I went over to the Lamakai house, and there was Jim Lowe. He'd transferred up there, so we finished up together. He's a dentist, or a retired dentist now in Oklahoma City. He's a good guy. You'd have to with a name like that.
Absolutely. How were homecomings in the 50s?
Oh, they were, I can't say they were bigger. There were a lot more floats than there are today. They just priced themselves plumb out of everything. But I remember working on floats with the Thetas. Another guy and I had to go find a Jeep so we could use it to build the float around. And we scoured the countryside before we kind of, we'd drive up to a farmhouse and say, do you have a Jeep? We finally found one and helped him build a float. He'd be up all night, and it would rain, he'd start all over. The house decks were a little easier, but then I remember we had one, and our theme, I can't remember what the overall theme was, but ours was the railroad runs through the middle of the house. And so we built this big engine with a little car behind it, and I can't remember what was supposed to be moving. We had a lot of mechanical parts. And it's a lot more advanced today. All the way, they build steel frames and weld them and all of that. And everything we did was pretty much out of wood. But it was big, and that parade was huge. And then all of the floats end up outside the football stadium over there. There's a lot like still today, except the floats were just. At the time, I thought this could be in the Rose Parade.
Wow.
They were really some fine stuff. And it was a fun way to meet more people, too. And then you'd go sit up there at the ball game and fall asleep. It was nicer as you became an upperclassman. And of course, you had the pledges doing all the hard work. It was a good time. Of course, the campus is so much bigger today than it was then. But still, the walk arounds and all the stuff hadn't changed. I remember going up years after, well, it was in the 80s for homecoming, and we'd been active with some of Ike Gross's women's tennis program. And in fact, there's a picture of him up here somewhere. Anyway, one of the gals that had been on Ike's team had come back for homecoming, and she saw us driving by. I don't know why she recognized the car either, but she jumped out in the street, hollered and yelling. She was out of Louisiana. And so you always see somebody. I think it's as friendly today as it was then. It really is.
Well, outside of the fraternity, were you involved in any other organizations?
The Redskin. Yeah, I think it's 3 different semesters I worked on the Redskin staff. I don't remember doing much, but I'd go to their meetings and all that. And of course, pledges had to go out and do something on campus. And there's a guy in our Sunday school class that has every edition of the Redskin from up to when it closed. When did it shut down? Early 60s, I think. No, late 60s. And he had them all the way back from whenever they started back in the 20s. And it was interesting because we'd go back with some of the guys that I knew that their dads had gone to school there. And one, in fact, he was my little brother in the Cab Sig house. His dad and my dad were acacias at the same time. We found them in an old yearbook. And I guess acacia's gone now. But, I think it's an annex for the Beta House. But,
What was it?
the acacias? Well, since I was never initiators by them, I want to say it was sponsored by the Masons.
Okay.
My dad was a Mason, and he taught me into joining the Nykolaiszyn, and I never went any further with it. But that somehow Acacia branched off of that. So how Masonic it is, I really.
Okay.
But if you ever interview a Mason, he could probably tell you. But I do remember selling an old boat I had to an Acacia. So I knew they were good guys. He paid me for it. They got me around Carl Blackwell a few times.
Are there any campus traditions that come to mind?
Campus traditions. It seems like everything I see or do is a campus tradition. Tailgating wasn't anything. I don't remember any tailgating. There could have been some, but of course there was always the wave. We've got that, but now we've got OSU and all the things that we're doing now. So then OU will pick up something on it a couple of years later. But we've always been a leader. Of course, homecoming is a tradition.
Very much so.
Absolutely. Well, I think, in the basketball, the way they do some things in the basketball games, there's tradition about running the flag around and those things.
Did you ever get thrown in Theta Pond?
No, but I certainly helped some go in. That anytime somebody was pinned or engaged, we'd always have a pond party. Some of them got a little rough. Some of them got a little mad. We all had a lot of fun.
What was a typical date like?
Being bashful, I was very nervous. Yeah, there's, of course, pledges had to go out on coke dates. They forced you to, so you'd have to find somebody to go out on a date with. And then there's always some guy in the house would be dating some girl in another house, and he'd have her find you a date. There was it the Howdy Dance? I think the first dance as a freshman at the Union. And I ended up with a date. A girl, I think her name was Blackman or something. It turns out she was the dairy princess from somewhere down in southeastern Oklahoma. And she was a nice girl, about as bashful and shy as I was. And so we just kind of walked around. She had on a formal, and I don't know if I had on a tux, probably not. And we just walk around the Union, and occasionally we'd see somebody we knew, and we'd talk for a minute, and we'd walk around a little more, and then I walked her back to her dorm and walked back to the house. That was, can't think of anything too thrilling in the early days.
And did you have a curfew?
No. The girls did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the guys didn't. Probably as a pledge, you probably did have to be in at 10:30. Didn't matter if all, of course you couldn't, they wouldn't let you drink in Stillwater anyway if you were a pledge. Unless you got 10 miles out, and that's too far, so you don't go.
Did you have any interaction with bootleggers?
Funny you should ask that.
Were you a bootlegger?
Funny you should ask that. Ark City, Kansas was the closest destination. And you'd go around and you'd pick up $5 from one guy and 10 from another and take their orders and run up there. And we made one run. We always hearing stories from these guys making big money doing this. And then we started hearing more stories about the guys getting stopped and they'd confiscate their liquor. And it wasn't always the police that did it. I think it was maybe some other guys that were just laying in wait. So I only made one run, and I think I might have broken even. With my own supply anyway. That was my only story, but there were several guys lost a bunch of stuff up there.
You were one and done in the bootlegging
Well,
business.
yeah, I thought that's not for me. Then even after I graduated, one of the buddies, we went in northwest Oklahoma City off Northwest Highway and pulled in this little, I think it's right on the county line of Northwest Highway. Pulled in this guy's garage. It was a drive-through garage. And he'd opened a little window there. D gave him the order, held the money out, and he dropped it. And he got out of the car to pick the money up, and the guy's big dog came over and bit him on the leg. The guy said, "Don't ever get out of the car."
Wow.
So that was our last trip to that bootlegger too. So, there was one bootlegger on the south side of Stillwater, and you pull up to his farmhouse and give him the order, and he'd get in his truck and drive somewhere back off, down across a pasture and into a bunch of trees, and come back with your order. That was probably the safest way to do it.
Wow. Did you work while you were a student?
I was a houseboy. Of course, I was going to reserve meetings and all that. But,
Sure.
I was a houseboy, primarily in Cap Sig House, which got plenty of food.
Mm-hmm.
Then I worked some in the Theta House and the Kyle House. I did that all the way through up until, well, I guess not all my senior year. Yeah, we had in the Cap Sig House, we had a cook named Babe. And Babe was stern. If you thought Mother B was stern, Babe was stern. But a real character and fun lover. We had a lot of fun. But she made you do it right. Those days aren't the same. I don't think they even have many sit-down dinners in the houses anymore. We always did lunch and dinner, formal dinners on Monday nights, where you had to wear a tie and all of that. Some of the pledges always had to sit at the front table with the house mother, and nobody sat down until the house mother came in. And, it was always some type of, almost a ceremony. And then we had a prayer we'd all say together.
Would you go home often, or would your parents visit?
Dad would come up during hunting season. I probably went home once a month, usually with a bag of laundry. And I guess, after 2 or 3 years of it, you go home less. But it wasn't an easy drive going to Oklahoma City in those days either, because it wasn't an interstate.
How long would it take you?
Oh, and depending on how many stops I make, it would probably be close to an hour and a half, maybe. Because I remember, I'd always have to take one of my buddies home, and I remember one trip home. It was late. I'm sure it was on a Friday or Saturday night. And I woke up and I was somewhere between Guthrie and Oklahoma City. I don't remember going through Guthrie at all. And that was kind of scary. Maybe that's why I didn't go home too often. But there was always something going on. You didn't want to miss anything. And folks understood that. And they did come up some. Maybe they came up and brought my aunt, who was also an alum, when they dedicated a building to my uncle. That's the Fred Lowe. It was in animal husbandry, I guess. That's where Dad was. They came up for that, and then they came up several football games. And then there was a DeCourcy dairy. And Dad was a health inspector, and the old gentleman that owned and started the dairy, old man DeCourcy, Dad brought him up one time to a football game. And he treated us at Whataburger. Of course, we didn't have a McDonald's then either. And that old DeCourcy gentleman gave me a silver dollar. And I had it for years. I don't know whatever happened to it, but I was impressed with that.
What were some of the restaurants you remember from the mid-50s?
There was a cafeteria in the Union, and then there was a restaurant that tied in with the hotel. It wasn't Atherton then, I don't know. That was nice. It was later the Ancestor. It's not even a restaurant anymore, on South Main. Can't remember what it was called originally. And then it became the Ancestor. Of course, Joe's wasn't around. Where did we eat? Whataburger. There was a chicken place on Main Street. I never was a chicken fan, but there was a guy in the Beta House. His mother ran it.
Was the strip still there?
Well, it wasn't like today.
Mm-hmm.
What was down there? Let's see. There was a drive-in restaurant, the Aggie B, I believe. It was almost down to 6th. There's a bank or something in that area now. That was a fine little drive-by.
Would you go to any particular place off campus to have a party or to hang out with friends?
Well, let's see. The Anchor was a bar. I think it's still there. And then there was it George's? It was open then. Maybe some of those things are harder to remember because I've been imbibing. I don't know. I know there had to be more places to eat. Of course, we always had food at the house. We had served lunch every day and dinner every night except Saturdays and Sundays. So there wasn't any, it was paid for. Sorry, you'd already paid for it, so you might as well eat it.
Earlier you mentioned you were gone for about 6 months for officer candidate school. And when you came back, we were at Oklahoma State. How did you feel about the name change?
Well, fortunately, I didn't have any business cards I had to reprint or anything like that. Well, it was an adjustment, but and I probably, for years still said A&M. Okay, I'm still an Aggie, but that was the big thing, was just having to write a new one. return address on anything I was mailing. And it was really bad when they changed their phone number from Frontier 2 to whatever, you know, they got rid of Frontier. Telephones, that's something that's changed. In the Capsig House, we had one phone booth on each floor. And if somebody was on the phone, you'd make a call. I mean, you'd sit out on the floor next to them and wait while they're sitting in there on the floor in the phone booth talking to their girlfriend or whatever. And, or you'd try to call somebody you know, to get a date, and you'd hear them yelling, "Susie!" You know, hollering and screaming, and it was really an effort to make a phone call in those days. Of course, there was pay phones all over the campus, but it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. Of course, you had to dial them, and that was bad on girls' fingernails. That was a talking point. I'm not sure all the new devices they're more like electric leashes now. You can't get away from them. But we didn't know the difference, so you get mad somebody stayed on the phone too long. You try to put time limits on them. And once they're out, they're gone because you can't find them because there's no way to call them. So it was certainly a different time.
When you look back to your college years and you think of mischief you may or may not have gotten into, what comes to mind?
When we were pledges, we were getting ready for a formal dance. We were going to have it at the house. And it was the pledge's job to decorate. And I don't know who came up with the idea, but we went out and Coca-Cola had some huge Coke signs, big red Coke signs that were probably 5 feet in diameter. Could have been bigger. They were big, I know that. We confiscated 3 of them and made a waterfall on the front porch of the Capsig House and put dry ice in it, and it was smoking and all. We thought it was so neat, and the members were so proud of us. It was just really sharp. And then the president, who was a Korean War vet, several of them had been to war, you know, were older guys. When he found out that we had stolen those Coke signs, he lined us all up down in the basement and picked one of those things up over his head, threw it the length of the basement, and yeah, we were in all kinds of trouble. But then they couldn't find where to take them back, so they stayed stacked in the basement for a while. And then it snowed. And some other brilliant fellow came up with an idea to use them as sleds. So we'd take ski ropes, tie them on behind our cars, and go out. There's an old golf course where some of the dorms are now. And that was an mirror field, and then there was an old run-down golf course. We'd go out there with those sleds and get some thetas or whoever was around wanted to go and pile 5 or 6 into the sled, and somebody'd be holding on the ski rope, and off we'd go over the golf course, slinging them around. Well, all of a sudden we became heroes. We were forgiven for confiscating the Coke signs. And they stayed in use for years up there. I don't know whatever happened to them. But, then one wasn't really mischievous. One of the guys' dads was a pilot for American Airlines, and he was always experimenting, doing something. And he made a little, and I think the idea might have come from the Coke signs, but Rick's dad made a plastic shell of a boat. And you could put a little bitty motor on it and it would go really fast. Or you could put a bigger motor on it. Jim Wood, that was All-American in 1958, had access to probably a 25 or 30, might have been a 35 horse Johnson. that he brought out. So we went out to Carl Blackwell with it and put that thing on it, and it almost sunk it when we put it on it. Fired it up. I don't remember who was driving it, but anyway, it just went up, flipped, and of course came down. Of course, the motor fell off and went right to the bottom. So our next project was to find that motor. Wood was sweating bullets. So a couple of guys had some scuba gear, and of course it was so muddy they couldn't find anything. They tried and they tried. Then another one of our brighter guys came up with an idea of dragging a hay rake around the bottom till we caught something. So I don't know where he got the hay rake, but anyway, we hooked it on behind one of the boats and started dragging that thing around. Well, it'd get all hung up in trees, and then the guys that had their scuba gear would have to go down. We never found the motor. And I don't know how Jim ever managed to con his way out of not paying for it, but I'm sure he handled it some way. But that was another one of our great adventures. That, like Carl Blackwell, was a good spot. Had a pig roast out there one Sunday after we had a formal dance, and these two pledges came through. Everybody had on white dinner jackets and bow ties and really spiffy, and here came these two pledges walking in with a pig on a spit between them, marching through announcing our pig roast the next day. So then they had to go out and dig a pit and start a fire about 5 o'clock the next morning after the dance. And then guys would start showing up about 10 o'clock, and some dates would show up later. And I think it was probably well after 2 before we ever had enough pig cooked to eat. But then everybody didn't care anyway, so that was our pig roast. And nobody got sick, that was the good thing.
Well, what was graduation like for you?
Well, I actually finished up the fall of '59, and I had to come back in January to take finals. But I was through. So my graduation, I was gone when it wasn't until May, I guess, whenever in the spring.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to go back up for graduation, and one of my very good buddies was in the same boat, so we got together and went back up there. I remember it was at Lewis Field, and the folks were up sitting in the stands, and Larry and we walked across the stage, got our diploma, and everybody was turning to go someplace. We turned the other way and cut out. We just felt like we didn't belong anymore. We were already out of school. In fact, I talked with Larry just last week. He's in Denver. No, it wasn't that much because I wasn't going through with my class, and of course there wasn't that many of us to begin with. Not like today. When my granddaughter graduated, well, that's probably been 10 years ago. When did she graduate? It went on forever. We were sitting up there. Why did we come to this?
Just her school.
That was just her group.
Well, after you finished up at OSU, take me through what happens next. What did you end up doing?
First thing I did was buy an Austin Healey. Got interested in sports car racing, which indirectly led me to meet Charlotte. So that was a good investment. It turned out quite well.
Well, tell me how you met your wife.
There was a blind date, but Tommy Wilson, who was deceased now, but Tommy and I were running around together, and I was playing fast pitch softball, and Tommy and some of us were bowling and doing different things. And Tommy had met Charlotte when he was doing something in Shawnee. But anyway, he said, I know a girl that's got a little MGA sports car. I said, really? And so he gave me her phone number, and I called her, and had a blind date. And I'm sure I was late. I was always late for everything. She could probably tell you more than that. But anyway, they started putting a few little accessories on her car for her, doing some little things, and we started dating pretty regular, and got more regular and more regular, and so we got married in February of '62, and still are.
Well, when you were racing cars, where would you race?
I wasn't racing as much as I was working the races.
Oh, okay.
I did go through some driver schools and did things like that. We had sports car races at the fairgrounds in Oklahoma City. We had the Ponca City road race around the lake up there that was really good. Then there was a driver school at the Air Force Base in Enid. And then I went with some of them, and Charlotte went on several of these trips up to someplace in Kansas. There's one in Alliance, Nebraska, where the hood of the Jag XKE came down on my hand, and my fingers left imprints in the hood where it came down. I can't think of the place in Kansas. But I'd usually be working on somebody's crew, and I'd just go out and drive the coursework, do something like that. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Met a lot of good people, which included Charlotte. So.
Well, what else did you end up doing?
Well, I had to work.
Mm-hmm.
I had to pay for that heating.
Too much fun.
Too much fun. So I ended up with going to work for Aetna, and not in sales, but in their office management. And talk about a drag, it really, really was. I did get to go to a school up in Hartford, Connecticut, which was an interesting experience. There's good stories from up there too. And my good buddy Larry that walked across the stage with, he was in Philadelphia with INA, so we'd meet in New York and remember our younger days. And left Aetna after sitting in that office for a while, and went to work for Pepsi, Lever Brothers. And I was a hot toothpaste salesman. And so that got me to New York several times for some of their meetings, and realized that not everybody was brushing their teeth like I thought they should, and they also wanted me to move down to Louisiana somewhere, which didn't interest me at all. Particularly since I think we're getting ready to have a baby pretty soon anyway. And so went to Northern Paper Mills, started selling toilet paper, and found out everybody uses toilet paper. So that worked out really well. Then American Can Company bought them. So got to go to Green Bay several times. Walked in a bar in Green Bay with a guy one time. He was from Lubbock, Texas, originally from Nebraska, but John was a big guy. And this was the weekend that Green Bay was going to play Minnesota. Baltimore, they're going to play Baltimore. And I had a crew cut and all of that. And John and I walked in this bar. And of course, everything in Green Bay is Packer country. And because of John, they really felt like we were a couple of football players. And I was, a little more shapely at that time. They thought some of them thought it was Johnny Nykolaiszyn, which we kind of pulled it to the hill further than we should have, and before we decided we need to get out of there. But every time I went to Green Bay, I always took 2 suitcases and I'd bring one home full of cheese. And we would take care of all the neighbors and friends with pretty good cheese that most of us had never had before. That worked out real well, and then I moved to Lubbock to take over a district. And Oh, a year in Lubbock is a long time. One of the guys I did some business with out there had been a lineman for Tech when Paul Horning was coming down to recruit Donnie Anderson. Donnie had been their quarterback at Tech. So this guy had some great stories to tell, particularly when Horning would hit town. That was probably my fondest memory of Lubbock. We were out there for a lifetime in about a year or 2 months or something like that. Charlotte's family had an operation out of Shawnee. They had retail stores and Wall's Bargain Centers, Newton Wall Company. You've got one in Stillwater. Mm-hmm. And so we moved back to Shawnee, and I started a wholesale company for them, or business for them. And whatever excess we had that the stores didn't need any more of, well, I'd have their leftovers to try to sell. And it worked out quite well. The company grew. I guess it worked out. I stayed with it for 31 years. So.
What year did you move back to Shawnee?
67, yeah. Mm-hmm. Winter of 67. Interesting about Lubbock, it was the first time I flew out there to see my new territory before the family moved. We went on Treetop Airlines. It's Trans-Texas Airlines. Coming over Lubbock, I looked down, and the stewardess said, it snowed out here today. And I looked down, and everything was red. It had a dust storm come in on top of the snow, and that was my first trip. And we built a house in a new area, which was underground utilities. So there weren't any phone lines for birds to sit on. There was nothing. There's some good people out there. Mm-hmm. But
just a different environment.
Well, it's somebody said it's anything you ever want, about 500 miles in any direction.
It's true.
But anyway, we were glad to get to Shawnee. Because Shawnee's changed too. I guess we've all changed too.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. Tell me a little bit how Shawnee's changed through the years.
I think when we got here in 67, the population might have been 25,000. And it never got above 29,000 for years and years and years. The interstate started making a difference. Probably it was in the 80s that things started to get in a little more into it, but that's when about the time they built the mall, which went downtown, into all kinds of political changes and things. But I guess it was in the late 80s they started the high school finals rodeo thing, and it was a national group that came in and did it for 3 years. And Charlotte and I worked with them trying to take care of the people that would come into town from wherever. And we had a group from Nebraska, and I don't remember where all, but that kind of got us started into the rodeo business. And we built the new expo center out there, and I served on that trust authority for 8 years. And the rodeo has just become something really big for high school kids. And brings in, well, there'll be somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,000 contestants every year, and they bring their families and their horses, and it just runs over the town. And they come back as often as they can, because it's just it's almost like a homecoming for them.
It brings in a lot of money.
Oh, big time. So that started hotels building, and it just has really grown since then. I'm not sure the town itself has grown a lot. I know we passed 30,000, but the county has really, really grown and become a trade center.
What are some of the major employers in the area?
Oh, let's see. Well, the Pottawattamie tribe is one of the big ones. And we've got like 7 tribes just right here in this 4-county area, plus all the casinos. But there's Wolverine, Mobile, TDK, of course, then we just recently opened, we opened all the new stores out there.
Ford Milling Company.
Yeah, a whole bunch of them.
Newton Law Company, Ford Milling.
Shawnee Mills is a big one. Newton Law Company probably, well, they've got over 100 here in Shawnee. But the Stillwater stores are next to the best store. But, and it used to be a little bitty store down on Main Street. But,
That's pretty big in Stillwater.
yeah, it's done quite well. Got a great lady running it up there too. Just got a whole bunch of new people, new stores out on the west side of town. Hobby Lobby, Chick-fil-A finally got to town. But, we got most of the chains now. But,
Shawnee's a town that every time I visit always seems extremely active.
particularly if you're trying to get somewhere in a hurry, you're behind a whole row of pickup trucks. It never fails. But there is a lot. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of people that are active in the city. Just, of course, there's always your political fights, but I think everybody has those. So, my advice to anybody is stay out of politics.
They have all the downtown functions.
Yeah, every month there's something going on downtown. 3 or 4 different bands play and street vendors. It doesn't compete with Bricktown, but we do have a Bricktown brewery. A lot of local restaurants now beside the chains that give you a little variety to sometimes stay healthy, sometimes not.
So are you retired these days?
Absolutely. I've been retired about 11 years.
Wow.
And I wake up at the crack of 8 with a smile on my face. Just love it, love it. We go to Lake Tinker pretty regular. Daughter and granddaughters in Austin, and daughter and granddaughters in Walton, and go to Cabo and try to get around. Have a granddaughter, it's a junior up at Stillwater now. Had 2 daughters go through there. This is the 3rd granddaughter. Got 2 great granddaughters. I don't know if I'll be around for they get up there or not. But
Lots of orange blood.
lots of blood all the way back to the 20s. But,
Are you involved with the Alumni Association?
So, I used to, before Burns came on board, they had a political Cowboys for politics or something, supposed to work with your local guys. But with Burns up there, we don't need anybody out here. He takes care of all of it. So that kind of fell through. But in our local Pot County group is, I think I might have told you earlier, we have, well, yeah, that's why you're here. Because the Pot County alums host, every summer, host the graduating class, or classes from all the schools around. The ones that are going to OSU. And then any students that are at OSU are invited to come in. So we host anywhere, I think there was 50 there this summer. One year there was like 80.
Wow.
And gave out about $3,500 worth of scholarships, which is strictly by drawing their name out of a hat. But they appreciate it. And the kids that come back, and some of them have only been there a year. Occasionally you'll find, well, this year we had one that has just graduated. But just to hear them get up and talk and telling these young kids what to expect and all, it's amazing. Just makes you feel good. So I'm sure there's a lot of alumni groups around the state that do this kind of thing. but it certainly is for the good.
How did earning your degree from OSU impact your life?
Well, it always helps to put on a resume that you have a degree. I think everything from time management to motion, that you, even loading a truck, which I've done a lot of that, but how to fit the most into a smaller space, and it just does something about the way you think. And third legs and some of those things in business management courses, how you work your time and your emotions and all those things. Yeah, it just helps in life.
And these days, how do you show your OSU pride?
Well, I'm talking to you for one thing.
I couldn't tell coming to your house today.
Well, yeah, we're definitely known in the neighborhood. But of course, we tailgate to all the games. I did give up our basketball tickets a couple of years ago because those drive home at night are a little tough on a 2-lane road for old folks. But we still make it to all the football games, and our tailgate group still, we've lost a couple of them, but there's new ones come in to replace it. Granddaughters bring friends by and see a lot of young kids, and it's something I can't imagine any school doing more tailgating than what, I hear stories about others, but just to drive across the campus or walk across the campus and see it. You got to be proud of it. You got to feel good about it. And then every time we drive into town and drive up Monroe, and that new road that goes on up across campus, and look through it and the flowers and all that, and Charlotte will say, "It's more beautiful this year." Still, it's not difficult to be proud of it.
How do you try to keep your connection and keep updated with Oklahoma State University?
Well, of course, I'm having email trouble right now, but we get our magazines. There's several over there, Posse magazine and the University of State magazine.
You have your lifetime membership.
Well, yeah, lifetime alum, we get stuff from alums, and talking with people. Always talking to people. Very seldom, I haven't found anybody yet that wasn't happy about their time at OSU or A&M. It's just second nature to want to be a part of it.
It seems many OSU alums are very loyal to OSU. What is it about Oklahoma State that sparks such loyalty?
I'd say friendship, because you're friends for life. That when you were reading on the sports page about these young guys coming up there, they talk about the family. And we've got a group that gets together at Grand Lake every 2 years. And guys coming in from Kentucky or North Carolina and come back, just get back together. And then there's probably 8 to 12 of us that get together every month in Oklahoma City for lunch. And of course, everybody's wanting to know what's going on campus. The ones from further away. It's just, I'd say friendship, good friendship. Because I'm talking about friends from 50-some years ago, and we're in contact on a regular basis, even though we don't live anywhere near one another. So, the guys in California, you're talking to them, want to know what's going on. And of course, today they can at least watch some football games, and that helps.
Oh yeah.
But their connection, even though they're not around, is still, those memories are there.
Well, tell me a little bit about your family as we start winding on down.
Well, my family's winding on up. We've got 2 great-granddaughters now. Callie graduated, that's a granddaughter. Her mother and dad are retired military. They live in Lawton now. Spent about 8 years in Italy, which almost broke us. But so Callie was just going to school at OSU at that time when they moved to Italy. So we had spent a lot of time with her. She graduated, she had an ROTC scholarship, and was the first woman cadet commander in the ROTC Army up there. Mm-hmm. And then went to that other school that has a law school, and the military paid for that. So she's on active duty now. She was originally in Virginia. Her husband, who was a capsig, and I guess his was just a business degree. But anyway, when he got out, he joined the Navy and went to Naval OCS. And I guess his longest tour was almost a year. He was out on the Ocean Blue. But anyway, they had their first child in Virginia, and now they're at Fort Hood, Texas, and he's in the MBA, his second year of the MBA school at UT. So they're sitting pretty good, and they have 2 little girls, future little ladies. That her sister Taylor was at OSU, did not finish because of health reasons, and ended up with a degree from UCLA. That's the University of Cameron, Lawton, America. But she was there for 3 years, so her blood's orange. And she's married to a West Pointer that's in Afghanistan right now. Our other daughter, Shawnee, graduated out of the hotel and restaurant school. That was in, 88? And her husband graduated a year before that, I guess. But anyway, they're in Austin now. And great story he had to tell when they first moved down there. He's with Accenture, and they worked with a lot of the state government contracts for Medicare and Medicaid and all of that. So there's a little place called the Chili Parlor close to the Capitol where all the guys in their fancy suits go down. And they took Charles with them down there one day. And they're standing in line to get their little bowl of chili, and he heard some lady behind him talking and said something about OSU. And he turned around and he said, "You said OSU? You mean Oklahoma State?" She said, Yes. He said, "I'm the president of the local alumni chapter." He said, "You're kidding, here in Austin?" She said, "Oh, we've got a very active group here in Austin." She said, how do you get along with all these Longhorn people?" She said, "Oh, it's easy. They hate OU more than we do."
I don't know if you can keep that.
So they have done quite well in Austin. Their youngest daughter, who's now was a state champion tennis player 2 years in a row down there, and is at OSU. She was injured and had surgery and ended her tennis career, but she's a junior this year, and comes by all of our tailgates to get a free meal. And her younger sister's a senior in Austin, and is also a tennis player. So who have I left out? Anybody?
I left for part of it.
I think that's most of it.
Okay.
But anyway, there's some orange blood in all of them.
Oh yeah.
The only 2 that have, well, semi-orange blood both went to West Point, so that's son-in-law and a grandson-in-law. So we'll excuse that.
Absolutely.
But and since I'm a lonely child, I can't say much other because I'm just spoiled orange.
Well, we covered quite a bit of ground today. What have I missed? What would you like to add?
Well, I want to thank you for making me start to think back on some of the good times I had. I mean, I had a lot of good times, but it's good to remember them. It's good to think about them. It helps having grandkids involved up there, but they still don't think about all the things that you've made me think about. So I appreciate that, and that.
I think your family would be very proud that you're sitting there doing this today, too. All your OSU family are probably very proud of you that you've been chosen to do this.
Well, that was Charlie's fault.
Well, Charlie chose you.
Because I was the oldest one there.
I'm sure Mom and Dad are looking down with a smile on their
Oh, I
face.
know they are. I know they are. But frankly, I've enjoyed it. I was nervous, but you're good.
Well, we appreciate your time today.